Hello, welcome to the Gregory C. YouTube channel. I've prepared a presentation for you titled Let's Talk About Spiders. I'm borrowing footage from the IloveSpiderz, spelled with a Z, YouTube channel. I'll provide you a link in the description. And the purpose of this talk is to consider the philosophical implications of human research and testing with respect to spider silk and also the limits of human technology. Also, I would like to prepare this as a contribution to the truth community for you to consider these things in the context of understanding human behavior. So, in my research, I've found that researchers in high technology institutions are doing research on spider silk. They're doing research on the geometric features of one spider silk fiber. They're also looking at the energy absorption characteristics of a spider web, and the goal is to create a new material which has potentially many different applications. Could be for the military or for different materials, bulletproof vests, explosion-proof housings, things of this nature. And I think it's interesting that when humans push the envelope on what's possible with technology, where they commonly go is to just look to nature. You can look in your backyard and observe this phenomenon. And lots of money and interest and time is being spent to study these things and to develop new technology. So we'll discuss those today. Spider silk has both axial and spiral geometric features to it, which have different mechanical properties. The spiral features of the silk have soft and stretchable characteristics, and the radial or the axial portion of the silk is more stiff and uniform in property. The spiders can vary the spiral stiffness of the silk with respect to its location in the web, which we'll soon discuss. There's a researcher from China named Cai Feng, if I'm pronouncing that nearly correctly, and I'll quote to you from one of his research papers. I'll link to you in the description. Quote, "The spiral silks feature distinct gradient variation and tensile stiffness along radial dimension of the web. Due to the gradient variation in the properties of spiral silks, the web exhibits a nearly uniform energy absorption energy, regardless of the position where a flying prey impacts the web." So that's very interesting. If you imagine jumping on a trampoline, jumping in the center or between the center and the edge or on the edge, you get a very different type of energy reflection, or a different way that the trampoline propels you back into the air. If you're in the middle, you get the best response. You're engaging all the springs on the edge of the trampoline. If you jump right on the edge, you're only engaging some of the springs, and you may get a very stiff response. It may push you up into an unexpected direction. And this would be, in comparison to a spider's web, very primitive. The spider web can absorb energy almost uniformly no matter where you impact the web. If you can imagine jumping on a trampoline, and no matter where you landed on the trampoline, you'd get the same energy reflection, you'd get the same bounce properties. You could see that would be a very attractive trampoline, and one that, to my knowledge, is not possible for humans to create. So I think that's very interesting. Other things to consider is the areas of, so in order to create materials which are made of spider silk or spider silk-like materials, to my knowledge, humans are not able to make a machine which produces spider silk that has such unique geometric features in one strand. To my knowledge, it just doesn't exist. And in fact, there are many laboratories which have sought to harvest spider silk from spiders. They found it difficult to raise the spiders and harvest the silk in a productive way, so they've actually turned to silkworms, which they're easier to raise and easier to harvest the silk from. And actually, there have been genetic engineers who've genetically modified the silkworm in order to create unique properties in the silk that they produce. And I won't take much time here to discuss the ethical implications here, but you can ask yourself, is this something we should be doing? Is it right? Should we be genetically modifying creatures in order to create new materials? It's definitely it could be interpreted as playing God with nature. Another thing researchers are doing in order to increase the strength of spider webs, and let me make a point before I discuss this, is that spider silk, when we talk about the strength of the spider silk, it's compared to the strength of steel. It's on the par of the strength of steel or with Kevlar fibers. I've looked at the numbers and they're very close. And we're not talking about just the strength of a steel bar, we're talking about strength to weight ratio. So these fibers are very strong with relation to their being very light. And in fact, they're similar with Kevlar, except Kevlar is just a textile material we make. It's uniform in properties and it's woven to make Kevlar vests. And again, is incredibly primitive to the energy absorption characteristics of a spider's web. So what are some of the things these researchers are doing is, in order to increase the strength of spider silk, researchers have sprayed spiders with a water solution mixed with graphene particles and carbon nanotubes. You may not be familiar with nanotechnology, but nano refers to the scale of the size of the nanotube. Milli is on the scale of 10 to the minus 3, micro is on the scale of 10 to the minus 6, and nano is on the scale of 10 to the minus 9. It's not quite the atomic level, but carbon nanotubes are composed of carbon atoms, which form a structure, so they're bigger than the atomic level, but they're very, very small. And combined with graphene particles, these spiders are sprayed with this mixture, and the silk which the spiders produce has enhanced strength properties above which the spider would naturally produce. I read this from a Cnet article, I'll link in the description, but a quote from the research paper says that the research have not figured out how the carbon nanotubes and graphene make it into the silk. So they literally just spray the spider produces silk, and it has these increased properties, but they're not sure how these materials get into the silk. I would imagine that these particles are so small that they're absorbed through the exoskeleton of the spider into the abdomen and interact somehow with the spider's capability to produce silk, which again, I see that humans have a poor understanding of this mechanism, and in fact cannot reproduce this in a lab, or they would be. They're actually harvesting spiders and harvesting the silk from spiders and the silk from silkworms. If they could make a device which did this independently, they would. So I like you to think about these things and understand how beautiful and complex nature does this without even thinking. The spider makes a web, which is, there's different types of spiders, there's different types of spider webs, but there are properties to all these different types of webs that are common. These spiral and radial characteristics of the silk are common among spiders. The energy absorption characteristics of the web is a common thing among spiders, even though spiders weave webs with different geometric properties. I think it's very interesting. And if you think about humans making, say, a shirt or some type of armor for someone to wear, think about the incredible amount of scientific research that's gone into understanding spider silk, harvesting spider silk, potentially enhancing the silk, manufacturing it, putting it into some type of material, which I'm not sure that there's anything available right now. Again, we may not know what the cutting edge of technology on this is, but just think about the incredible amount of time and resources which goes into creating this. I mean, we're talking, across many universities, many different industries, private companies, all these things just to make one, shirt or vest. And you can imagine potentially over time this cost may come down, but again, the research isn't going to stop. The ability to create these things that I imagine is not ever going to be possible. So it takes, what it takes a spider, a few hours or an afternoon to put up, which is naturally made substance in the spider's abdomen. He doesn't even think when he's doing this, or when it's doing this, is that, we would take years and universities and all these industries just to create one thing. When this happens, you can go in your backyard and witness this happening for yourself. So these are just things to think about. I think it's interesting to consider how primitive and how limited human technology really is when we just look at what's available in everyday, out in nature. I think it's interesting to consider that the best humans can do when it comes to making bulletproof vests or explosion-proof housings, potentially, is that the best we can do is to imitate nature. We can't come up with anything like this on our own. We literally go find something in nature and try to reverse engineer it or harvest it or modify it. And it's just a testament to how primitive we really are. And at the end of the video, I'd like to show you there's a small video of a person harvesting silk from a spider. And I just think this is a testament to how potentially ridiculous some of this research can be. I mean, it looks like they have a fishing reel and they're going to be reeling silk off of the spider's abdomen while they have it pinned to the ground. And that's sort of a testament to, what we're doing with nature. We're really pinning it down and extracting something from it so that we can do something that it wasn't intended for. Thank you for your time today. Please leave me your comments. Let me know if you like this video. Let me know what your thoughts are. And thank you for your time.